In the heart of Dubai, where ancient traditions dance with modern aspirations, Isabella Martinez hurried through the bustling streets, her weathered uniform tucked neatly in her bag. The morning sun cast long shadows across the gleaming skyscrapers, their reflective surfaces creating a maze of light that seemed to mock her rushed pace. At 32, she carried herself with a quiet dignity that belied her circumstances. A single mother from Colombia, trying to carve out a future for her twin daughters in this glittering metropolis of contradictions. "Mama, my shoelace!" 7-year-old Sophia called out, struggling to keep up with her mother's brisk stride. Her twin sister, Luna, already ahead of them, turned back with an impatient sigh. "Quickly, mi amor," Isabella responded, kneeling to tie the lace while checking her watch. She couldn't be late again to her job at the Royal Oasis Resort. 3 warnings in a month would mean termination, and she couldn't afford to lose this position, not when her girl's future hung in the balance. The twins, with their matching dark curls and bright eyes, were her everything. Sophia, the artistic dreamer who could turn any surface into a canvas, and Luna, the practical one who already showed a keen interest in numbers and business. They were her miracle, her reason for pushing through every exhausting day. As they rushed toward the bus stop, Isabella's mind wandered to the stack of bills waiting at home. The modest apartment they shared in one of Dubai's less prestigious neighborhoods was a far cry from the luxury she cleaned every day, but it was home. She had learned to stretch every dirham, to make meals from simple ingredients, to find joy in small victories. The bus was already approaching their stop when Isabella realized she'd left her employee ID card at home. No, she muttered, calculating the impossibility of returning home and still making it to work on time. Without thinking, she grabbed her daughter's hands and darted across the street, desperate to catch the next bus going in the opposite direction. The screech of tires against asphalt pierced the morning air. Isabella froze, her heart pounding as a sleek black Rolls-Royce came to an abrupt halt mere inches from where they stood. The girls clutched her sides, their small bodies trembling. The car door opened with deliberate slowness, and out stepped a man whose presence seemed to command the very air around him. Tall and imposing in his pristine white thobe, Karim al-Rashid fixed Isabella with a stern gaze that made her spine stiffen. "Do you have a wish to endanger yourself and these children?" His voice was deep, accented, and carried the weight of someone used to being obeyed without question. Isabella lifted her chin, meeting his gaze directly. "I apologize for my recklessness, sir, but I must get home to retrieve my work ID. I cannot lose this job, my daughters depend on it." Something flickered in Karim's expression. Surprise, perhaps, at her direct response. His eyes moved from Isabella to the twins, who stood straight and proud despite their fear. Sophia's artist's soul captured every detail of his features, while Luna assessed him with a shrewdness beyond her years. "Where do you work?" he asked, his tone softening almost imperceptibly. "The Royal Oasis Resort, sir. I'm part of the housekeeping staff." A flash of recognition crossed his face, though Isabella didn't notice it. She was too busy calculating the minutes slipping away, each one bringing her closer to potential disaster. "Ahmed," Karim called to his driver who had stepped out of the car, "take them where they need to go. Ensure they arrive safely." Before Isabella could protest, he held up a hand. "Consider it compensation for my part in delaying you further." With that, he turned and walked toward a nearby coffee shop, his phone already at his ear. The ride home was quick and silent, the luxury of the car's interior making the girls wide-eyed with wonder. When they finally arrived at the resort, Isabella was exactly on time, her ID card safely pinned to her uniform. As she began her day's work, she couldn't shake the memory of those penetrating dark eyes, the authority in his stance, the unexpected kindness beneath his stern exterior. Little did she know that this chance encounter would set in motion events that would transform not only her life, but the lives of everyone around her. In the executive offices above, Karim al-Rashid sat at his desk, owner of the very resort where Isabella worked. He found himself distracted from his morning meetings, his thoughts returning to the fierce determination in the eyes of the woman who had dared to stand her ground before him. He pulled up the employee database on his computer, finding her file with ease. Isabella Martinez. Single mother, Colombian, exemplary work record despite recent tardiness warnings. Something about her struck a chord in his memory, a distant recollection he couldn't quite grasp. He closed the file, but not before making a mental note to keep an eye on this particular employee. The day unfolded like any other at the Royal Oasis Resort, but beneath the surface, subtle currents were shifting, drawing two very different worlds toward an inevitable collision. As Isabella methodically worked through her duties, she remained unaware that her life was about to change in ways she could never have imagined. The following week brought a suffocating heatwave to Dubai, making Isabella's work even more challenging. As she moved through the resort's luxurious corridors, carefully dusting crystal chandeliers and polishing marble surfaces, her mind kept returning to the mysterious man from the near accident. There was something familiar about him, like a half-remembered dream, but she couldn't place it. During her lunch break, Isabella sat in the staff room watching her daughters through the window as they played in the small courtyard reserved for employees' children. The resort's policy of allowing workers to bring their children during summer break had been a blessing she couldn't take for granted. Sophia had set up her small sketchbook on a bench, her pencil moving swiftly across the paper, while Luna was engrossed in counting and organizing a collection of smooth stones she'd gathered. "Martinez," her supervisor's voice cut through her thoughts. "Mr. Al-Rashid's office wants to see you immediately." Isabella's heart skipped a beat. In her 3 years at the resort, she'd never been summoned to the owner's office. She smoothed her uniform, checked her appearance in the reflection of a window, and headed to the executive floor with trepidation building in her chest. The executive floor was another world entirely. Thick carpets muffled her footsteps, and the air carried the subtle scent of oud. The receptionist, a perfectly polished woman in a hijab, directed her to large double doors with gold handles. As she entered the office, Isabella's breath caught in her throat. Standing by the floor-to-ceiling windows was the same man from the street incident, now dressed in an impeccable business suit. Karim al-Rashid turned to face her, and recognition dawned in his eyes. "Ms. Martinez," he said, gesturing to a chair. "Please sit." Isabella perched on the edge of the seat, her back straight. "Sir, I had no idea you were the owner?" A slight smile played at the corners of his mouth. "Yes, I prefer to maintain a certain anonymity at times. It allows me to see things as they truly are." He moved to his desk, picking up a folder. "I've been reviewing your file. You've been with us for 3 years and your work has been exemplary. However, I notice recent concerns about punctuality." "Sir, I can explain," Isabella began, but he held up a hand. "I believe I already understand. Single mother, 2 young daughters, living in Al-Quoz. The commute alone must be challenging." He paused, studying her with those penetrating eyes. "Tell me, Ms. Martinez, how did you come to Dubai?" Isabella took a deep breath, weighing her words carefully. "I came seeking opportunities, sir. In Colombia, I was a teacher, but here, well, sometimes we must rebuild from the ground up." Something shifted in his expression. "A teacher? What subject?" "Literature and languages. I speak Spanish, English, and I've been learning Arabic." Karim walked to the window, his reflection overlapping with the Dubai skyline. "I have a proposition for you, Ms. Martinez. I need someone to manage my household staff and oversee the day-to-day operations of my residence. The position comes with living quarters suitable for you and your daughters, and it would include their enrollment in the International Academy of Dubai." Isabella's heart thundered in her chest. The International Academy was one of the most prestigious schools in the Emirates. "Sir, that's very generous, but I don't have experience as a house manager. You were a teacher, Ms. Martinez. You know how to organize, educate, and lead. Those skills are more valuable than experience with household inventories, which can be learned." He turned to face her. "Besides, I've seen how you handle yourself under pressure. That counts for something." As if on cue, a commotion arose from the courtyard below. They both moved to the window, where they could see Sophia showing her latest drawing to a group of admiring staff members, while Luna appeared to be explaining something with animated gestures. "Your daughters," Karim observed. "They seem quite remarkable." "They are my everything," Isabella replied softly. "The position is yours if you want it. Take the weekend to consider. The salary is triple your current wage, and as I mentioned, it includes accommodation and education for the girls." He handed her a business card. "Call this number with your decision on Sunday." As Isabella left the office, her mind was spinning. This opportunity could change everything for her daughters, but it also meant entering a world she barely understood. The weight of the business card in her pocket felt like a key to a door she wasn't sure she was ready to open. That evening, as she helped the girls with their homework in their small apartment, Luna looked up from her math problems. "Mama, why do you look worried?" Sophia stopped coloring and added, "Is it about the man from the big car?" Isabella gathered her daughters close. "How would you feel about moving to a new house and going to a new school?" The twins exchanged glances, having one of their silent conversations. Finally, Luna spoke. "Will we still be together?" "Always, mi amor, always together." As she tucked them into bed that night, Isabella stood by their window looking out at the glittering Dubai skyline. Somewhere out there, Karim al-Rashid was probably in his mansion, perhaps wondering if she would accept his offer. Little did either of them know that destiny had been weaving their paths together long before their chance encounter on that busy street. The al-Rashid mansion stood like a modern palace against the Dubai skyline, its white marble facade gleaming under the desert sun. Isabella stood at the ornate gates, holding her daughter's hands, their few belongings packed in 3 modest suitcases. The decision to accept Karim's offer had come after countless hours of contemplation and 2 sleepless nights. "Welcome, Ms. Martinez." Ahmed, the driver she recognized from their first encounter, greeted them with a warm smile. "Let me help you with your bags." As they walked up the curved driveway, Sophia gasped at the elaborate fountain featuring Arabian horses carved from marble, while Luna's eyes were drawn to the sophisticated security system she spotted at various points around the property. The mansion's enormous wooden doors opened to reveal an entrance hall that took Isabella's breath away. Crystal chandeliers cast rainbow reflections across polished floors, and intricate Islamic geometric patterns adorned the walls. But it was the woman standing at the foot of the grand staircase who commanded their attention. "So these are our new additions," the woman said, her tone carefully neutral. She was dressed in a designer abaya, her makeup perfect, her posture regal. "I am Amira al-Rashid, Karim's sister. Welcome to our home." Before Isabella could respond, rapid footsteps echoed from above, and Karim appeared, descending the stairs with purposeful strides. "Isabella, you're here. I trust the drive was comfortable." "Yes, thank you, Mr. al-Rashid. Please call me Karim. We'll be seeing quite a bit of each other." His eyes softened as he looked at the twins. "And these must be Sophia and Luna. Welcome to your new home." Amira's perfectly shaped eyebrows rose slightly. "Brother, perhaps we should discuss the arrangements in private." "There's nothing to discuss, Amira. I've made my decision." Karim's tone was final. "Ahmed will show them to their quarters, and then Isabella and I will review her responsibilities." Their quarters turned out to be a beautiful apartment within the mansion's east wing, complete with 3 bedrooms, a living area, and a small kitchen. The twins ran from room to room, their excitement evident in their squeals of delight. "Your daughters will start school next week," Karim informed Isabella as they walked through the mansion later that morning. "A driver will take them each morning and bring them back in the afternoon. Now about your duties." The list was extensive but manageable, overseeing the household staff, managing schedules, coordinating with security, organizing events, and ensuring the smooth operation of the household. As they toured the mansion, Isabella took mental notes of everything: the staff's routines, the security protocols, the family's preferences. "There's one more thing," Karim said, leading her to his private study. "My sister Amira, she can be protective. Our family has always been traditional, and change doesn't come easily to her." Isabella nodded, understanding the unspoken warning. "I'll be professional and respectful, Sir Karim. I'm here to do my job and provide for my daughters." Something flickered in his eyes. Appreciation, perhaps, or something deeper. "You remind me of someone," he said quietly, almost to himself. "Years ago, in a small coastal town." Before he could continue, Amira appeared in the doorway. "Karim, the investors from Singapore are on the line." That evening, as Isabella helped her daughters settle into their new rooms, she couldn't shake the feeling that there was more to Karim's unfinished statement, the way he looked at her sometimes, as if trying to place a memory. "Mama, look what I found," Sophia called out, pointing to the view from her window. The Dubai sunset painted the sky in brilliant oranges and pinks, the city's lights beginning to twinkle in the gathering dusk. "It's like a fairy tale," Luna observed, practical as always. "But what's the catch?" Isabella hugged her daughters close. "The catch, mi amor, is that we must work hard to deserve this opportunity. We must be strong, smart, and brave. Later that night, after the girls had fallen asleep, Isabella stood on their private balcony, watching the city lights. From somewhere in the mansion, she heard voices, Karim and Amira, their tones suggesting an argument. Though she couldn't make out the words, she understood enough. Her presence here was already causing ripples in the family's carefully ordered world. As she prepared for bed, a soft knock at the door revealed Mrs. Kumar, the elderly Indian housekeeper who had shown her around the staff areas earlier. "Just wanted to check if you need anything, dear," she said with a kind smile. "And a bit of advice, if you don't mind. This house holds many secrets. Keep your eyes open and your heart guarded." With those cryptic words, she disappeared down the hallway, leaving Isabella to wonder what mysteries lay behind the mansion's golden gates, and why she couldn't shake the feeling that she'd crossed paths with Karim al-Rashid long before their recent encounter on that Dubai street. As weeks turned into months, Isabella settled into her role at the al-Rashid mansion with a determination that impressed even the most skeptical staff members. Her days began before sunrise, overseeing the preparation of breakfast, coordinating the housekeeping schedule, and ensuring that every detail of the household ran smoothly. The twins, now attending the prestigious International Academy of Dubai, were thriving in their new environment. One particularly busy morning, as Isabella rushed through the kitchen checking on the day's menu, she overheard two maids whispering in rapid Arabic. "Did you see how the master looked at her during the charity gala last night?" one said, her voice barely above a whisper. "Shh. Walls have ears here," the other replied, casting a nervous glance around. Isabella pretended not to have heard, but their words echoed in her mind. The previous night's event, a fundraiser for education in underprivileged communities, had been her first major test as household manager. She had worked tirelessly to ensure its success, coordinating with caterers, decorators, and security teams. Throughout the evening, she had felt Karim's eyes on her more than once. At the time, she had attributed it to him assessing her performance, but now she wondered if there was more to it. Later that day, as she went through the household accounts in Karim's study, he entered looking tired but satisfied. "The gala was a tremendous success," he said, loosening his tie. "You did an excellent job, Isabella." "Thank you, sir. I'm glad it met your expectations." He poured himself a glass of water, then hesitated before asking, "How are your daughters adjusting to their new school?" Isabella's face lit up. "They're doing wonderfully. Sophia's art teacher says she has exceptional talent, and Luna—" She trailed off, suddenly aware of how personal the conversation had become. Karim smiled encouragingly. "Go on. Luna has been invited to join the Junior Business Club. She's already talking about starting her own company someday." A chuckle escaped him, warm and genuine. "She reminds me of myself at that age. Always planning, always dreaming big." For a moment, the air between them seemed charged with an unspoken connection. Then, as if remembering himself, Karim cleared his throat. "I have a favor to ask. My mother is visiting next week, and I'd like you to oversee the preparations personally." Isabella nodded, sensing the importance of the request. "Of course. I'll ensure everything is perfect." As she turned to leave, Karim called out softly, "Isabella?" She paused at the door. "Thank you for everything." The week leading up to the matriarch's visit was a flurry of activity. Isabella found herself working closely with Amira, who, despite her initial coldness, began to show grudging respect for Isabella's efficiency and attention to detail. On the day of Fatima al-Rashid's arrival, the mansion was immaculate, filled with the matriarch's favorite flowers and the aroma of traditional Emirati dishes. Isabella stood discreetly in the background as the family greeted the elegant older woman. Fatima's sharp eyes scanned the room, taking in every detail before landing on Isabella. "And who is this?" she asked, her voice carrying the weight of authority. Karim stepped forward. "Mother, this is Isabella Martinez, our new household manager." Fatima approached Isabella, studying her intently. "Martinez, not a local name. Where are you from, child?" "Colombia, Mom," Isabella replied, meeting the older woman's gaze respectfully. "Interesting," Fatima mused, a hint of a smile playing at her lips. "Very interesting indeed." As the family moved to the dining room, Isabella couldn't help but feel that Fatima's assessment held more meaning than a simple observation about her origins. That evening, as Isabella tucked her daughters into bed, Sophia asked, "Mama, why does Ms. Amira look at you funny sometimes?" Luna, ever observant, added, "And why does Mr. Karim always seem to be watching you?" Isabella sighed, choosing her words carefully. "Sometimes, mi amores, when people come from different worlds, it takes time for them to understand each other. We must be patient and kind always." After the girls fell asleep, Isabella found herself wandering the quiet halls of the mansion. She paused by a partially open door, recognizing Karim's voice from within. "Mother, please. This isn't about replacing anyone. Isabella is an employee, nothing more." Fatima's reply was soft but clear. "My son, I've seen the way you look at her. It reminds me of how your father used to look at me. But remember your position, your responsibilities, the family name." Isabella stepped back quickly, her heart racing. She hurried to her room, her mind whirling with questions. What had Fatima meant? And why did Karim's denial of any deeper connection with her leave her feeling oddly disappointed? As she gazed out at the twinkling Dubai skyline, Isabella realized that her role in this household was becoming far more complex than she had ever anticipated. The whispers in the palace were growing louder, and she found herself at the center of a story that was only beginning to unfold. As autumn settled over Dubai, bringing milder temperatures and a renewed energy to the city, life in the Al Rashid mansion took on a new rhythm. Isabella had grown more confident in her role, her natural leadership abilities blossoming as she managed the household with grace and efficiency. The staff, once wary of the outsider, now looked to her with respect and even affection. One crisp morning, Isabella was overseeing the preparation of a breakfast meeting Karim was hosting for international investors when Amira burst into the kitchen, her usually composed demeanor shaken. "Where is my brother?" she demanded, her eyes scanning the room frantically. "Mr. Al-Rashid is in his study preparing for the meeting," Isabella replied calmly. "Is everything all right, Ms.?" Amira hesitated, conflict clear on her face. Finally, she said, "Come with me. Now." Puzzled, Isabella followed Amira to a rarely used sitting room. There, propped against an antique settee, was one of Sophia's paintings, a vibrant, impressionistic piece capturing the mansion's garden at sunset. But it wasn't the beauty of the artwork that had Amira so agitated. In the foreground, two figures stood close together, a man in traditional Arab dress and a woman with long dark hair, their hands almost touching, their gazes locked in an unmistakable moment of connection. "Explain this," Amira hissed, pointing at the painting. Isabella's heart raced as she recognized the figures as Karim and herself, though Sophia had painted them in a way that suggested an intimacy that didn't exist. Or did it? "It's just a child's imagination, Ms. Amira. Sophia has a gift for seeing beauty in everyday moments." "Beauty?" Amira scoffed. "This is scandal waiting to happen. If anyone outside this house were to see this..." "See what?" Karim's voice came from the doorway. He entered the room, his eyes moving from the painting to Isabella, to his sister. "Brother, you must put an end to this. Whatever this is," Amira pleaded. "Think of the family, of your position." Karim studied the painting silently, his expression unreadable. Finally, he turned to Isabella. "Your daughter is very talented. The use of light, the emotion captured, it's remarkable." "Karim!" Amira exclaimed, shocked by his calm reaction. He held up a hand to silence her. "Amira, you're overreacting. It's a child's painting, nothing more. Now, if you'll excuse me, I have investors waiting." As he left, Amira turned to Isabella, her eyes narrowed. "You may have my brother fooled, but I see what's happening here. Remember your place, Ms. Martinez. This isn't your world, and it never will be." Left alone with the painting, Isabella felt a mix of emotions wash over her. Pride in Sophia's talent, anxiety over the stir it had caused, and a fluttering in her chest at the way Karim had defended her daughter's work. She carefully moved the painting to her family's quarters, knowing it needed to be addressed, both with Sophia and, perhaps, with Karim himself. Later that evening, as Isabella helped the twins with their homework, she gently broached the subject. "Sophia, Amor, the painting you did of the garden, it's beautiful, but I'm curious about the people you included." Sophia looked up, her eyes shining. "Oh, you mean Mr. Karim and you? I see you talking in the garden sometimes. You both look happy. Luna, ever the pragmatist, chimed in. Sophia always paints what she sees, Mama, even the things people try to hide. Isabella hugged her daughters close, marveling at their perceptiveness and wondering if they had indeed seen something she herself had been trying to ignore. As the girls slept, Isabella found herself once again drawn to the balcony, the Dubai night alive with lights and possibilities. A soft knock on the door interrupted her thoughts. She opened it to find Karim standing there, looking uncharacteristically uncertain. "I hope I'm not disturbing you," he said quietly. "Not at all. Is everything all right?" He hesitated before speaking. "That painting, it stirred something in me. A memory, perhaps, or a wish." His eyes met hers, filled with an intensity that made her breath catch. "Isabella, there's something I need to tell you. Something about our past, about why I truly offered you this position." Just as he was about to continue, the sound of approaching footsteps echoed down the hall. Karim stepped back quickly, his mask of professionalism slipping back into place. "We'll speak tomorrow," he said, before disappearing into the shadows of the corridor. Isabella closed the door, her mind reeling. What did Karim mean about their past? What memory could possibly connect them before their chance encounter on that Dubai street? As she lay in bed that night, sleep eluding her, Isabella couldn't shake the feeling that she stood on the precipice of a revelation that would change everything. The canvas of truths that Sophia had unknowingly painted was about to reveal colors and depths that no one in the Al Rashid mansion was truly prepared for. The following morning dawned with an air of expectancy. Isabella went about her duties with practiced efficiency, but her mind kept wandering to Karim's unfinished revelation. What secret from their past could he possibly be holding? As she oversaw the preparation of lunch, Mrs. Kumar approached her with a knowing look. "Child, the winds of change are blowing through this house. Be prepared for what they might bring." Before Isabella could ask what she meant, Karim's voice came over the intercom. "Isabella, please come to my study." With a deep breath, she made her way to Karim's private sanctuary. The room was lined with books and artifacts from his travels, each piece telling a story of its own. Karim stood by the window, his posture tense. "Please sit," he said, gesturing to a leather armchair. As Isabella settled in, he began to pace. "What I'm about to tell you may seem impossible, but I assure you, it's the truth." He paused, gathering his thoughts. 5 years ago, I visited a small coastal town in Colombia on a business trip. It was meant to be a routine visit to a potential investment site, but it became so much more. Isabella's heart began to race. 5 years ago, she had been living in her hometown of Santa Marta, teaching at the local school and raising her then 2-year-old twins. Karim continued, his voice soft with memory. "There was a storm that day, fierce and sudden. As I took shelter in a local market, I saw a woman protecting 2 little girls from the rain. She was using her own body as a shield, making sure they stayed dry even as she got soaked to the bone." Isabella's breath caught in her throat. She remembered that day vividly, the sudden downpour, huddling with Sophia and Luna under the market's flimsy awning, trying to keep them dry and calm. "That woman was you, Isabella," Karim said, his eyes meeting hers. "I never spoke to you, never learned your name, but the image of your selflessness, your strength, it stayed with me. When I saw you on that Dubai street months ago, I knew instantly it was you. That's why I offered you this job. I needed to know the woman who had left such an indelible mark on my memory." Silence fell between them, heavy with the weight of this revelation. Isabella's mind whirled, trying to process this information. "But why didn't you say anything before?" Karim sighed, running a hand through his hair. "At first I wasn't sure how to approach it. Then as I got to know you, as I saw how you worked, how you cared for your daughters, I didn't want you to think the position was offered out of some misplaced sense of, I don't know, destiny. I wanted you to know you earned your place here through your own merit." Isabella stood overwhelmed. "This is a lot to take in, Karim. I don't know what to say." He moved closer, his voice gentle. "You don't have to say anything. I just needed you to know the truth, especially after seeing Sophia's painting. It seems she saw something between us before we did." The air between them crackled with unspoken emotions. Just as Karim took another step towards her, the study door burst open. Amira stood there, her face a mask of fury. "So this is where you've been hiding," she spat. "While you're in here indulging in whatever this is, your fiancée has arrived early. She's waiting in the main hall." Isabella felt as if she'd been doused in ice water. "Fiancée," she whispered, looking at Karim in disbelief. Karim's face paled. "Amira, I told you I'm not going through with that arrangement. It was father's wish, not mine. And you think you can just throw away years of tradition, of family expectations?" Amira's voice rose. "For what? Some foreign woman with no standing, no connections? That's enough." Karim's voice thundered through the room. "Isabella, please excuse us. I need to speak with my sister privately." As Isabella left the study, her mind in turmoil, she nearly collided with a stunningly beautiful woman in the hallway. The woman's perfectly manicured hand steadied her. "Oh, I'm so sorry," the woman said in accented English. "I'm looking for Karim al-Rashid. I'm Layla, his fiancée." Isabella felt her world tilt on its axis. "He's in his study," she managed to say before quickly excusing herself. As she retreated to her quarters, Isabella's mind raced with questions. What did this mean for her and her daughters? For the connection she had felt growing with Karim? And most importantly, how would this revelation affect the delicate balance of her life in the Al-Rashid mansion? Little did she know that the storm brewing within the family would soon make the tempest of that day in Colombia seem like a gentle rain in comparison. The days following Layla's arrival were a whirlwind of tension and unspoken words. Isabella threw herself into her work with renewed vigor, desperate to keep her mind occupied and away from thoughts of Karim and the revelation that had turned her world upside down. Layla, it turned out, was the daughter of a prominent Emirati business tycoon. The arranged marriage had been in the works for years, a strategic alliance meant to strengthen both families' positions in the competitive world of Middle Eastern business. She was everything society expected of Karim's future wife, cultured, well-educated, and from an impeccable lineage. One afternoon, as Isabella was arranging flowers in the main living room, Layla approached her. "You must be Isabella," she said, her tone friendly but tinged with curiosity. "Karim has spoken highly of your work here." Isabella straightened, meeting Layla's gaze. "Thank you, Ms. Layla. I hope your stay has been comfortable." Layla's eyes narrowed slightly, as if trying to decipher something in Isabella's expression. "It has, thank you. Though I must admit, things seem tense." "Is that normal around here?" Before Isabella could formulate a response, Sophia and Luna burst into the room, returning from school. They stopped short at the sight of Layla. "Mama, who's this?" Luna asked, her analytical mind already at work assessing the newcomer. Isabella's heart clenched as she made the introductions. "Girls, this is Ms. Layla. She's a guest of Mr. Al-Rashid's." Sophia, ever the artist, tilted her head as she looked at Layla. "You're very pretty," she said, "but you don't belong in the painting." Layla's eyebrows shot up. "Painting? What painting?" Isabella quickly ushered the girls out, making excuses about homework. But the damage was done. She could feel Layla's questioning gaze boring into her back as she left the room. Later that evening, as Isabella helped the twins with their schoolwork, Luna looked up from her math problems. "Mama, is Miss Layla going to marry Mr. Karim?" Isabella's hand stilled on Sophia's sketchbook. "Why do you ask that, mi amor?" "Because," Luna said matter-of-factly, "if she does, we might have to leave. And I don't want to leave. I like it here." Sophia nodded in agreement, her eyes wide with concern. "Me too. And Mr. Karim looks at you the way princes look at princesses in my storybooks." Isabella gathered her daughters close, her heart heavy. "Mi amores, life is complicated sometimes. We can't always understand why things happen the way they do. But I promise you, no matter what, we'll always be together." As the girls drifted off to sleep, Isabella found herself once again on the balcony, the Dubai skyline a glittering backdrop to her tumultuous thoughts. The sound of approaching footsteps made her turn. It was Karim. "May I join you?" he asked softly. Isabella nodded, unable to trust her voice. They stood in silence for a moment, the night air heavy with unspoken words. Finally, Karim spoke. "I want you to know, I never intended for any of this to happen. The arrangement with Layla, it was made years ago. I've been trying to find a way out of it, but the family pressures, the business implications, you don't owe me an explanation, Karim." Isabella interrupted, her voice barely above a whisper. "I'm your employee, nothing more." Karim turned to her, his eyes intense. "Is that really all you think you are to me? After everything?" Before Isabella could respond, a sharp voice cut through the night. "Karim, are you out here?" It was Amira. Karim stepped back, his face a mask of frustration. "We're not done with this conversation," he said to Isabella, before turning to meet his sister. As Isabella retreated to her room, her mind was a whirlpool of emotions. She knew she stood at a crossroads. On one side lay the safe, familiar path, focusing on her work, raising her daughters and keeping her heart guarded. On the other was a road fraught with uncertainty, but also the possibility of a love she had never dared to imagine. The next morning, as she prepared for another day of managing the household, Isabella made a decision. She would confront Karim, once and for all. They needed to clear the air to understand where they stood, for the sake of everyone involved. Little did she know that fate had other plans. As she stepped out of her quarters, she was met by a grim-faced Mrs. Kumar. "Child," the older woman said, her voice laden with concern, "you need to come quickly. There's been an incident." Isabella's heart raced as she followed Mrs. Kumar, unaware that she was about to face a challenge that would test not only her feelings for Karim, but everything she thought she knew about her place in the Al-Rashid household. Isabella's heart pounded as she followed Mrs. Kumar through the winding corridors of the mansion. The air felt thick with tension, and the usually bustling household was eerily quiet. They arrived at Karim's study, where raised voices could be heard from behind the closed door. Mrs. Kumar gave Isabella a sympathetic look before knocking softly. The voices inside fell silent, and after a moment, Amira opened the door. Her face was flushed with anger, but her eyes widened in surprise when she saw Isabella. "What is she doing here?" Amira hissed at Mrs. Kumar. Before the older woman could respond, Karim's voice called out from inside the room. "Let her in, Amira. She needs to hear this too." Isabella stepped into the study, her eyes immediately drawn to Karim. He stood by his desk, his posture tense, a crumpled piece of paper in his hand. Layla sat in an armchair, her usual poise replaced by a look of shock and betrayal. "Isabella," Karim began, his voice strained, "there's been a complication." Amira scoffed. "Complication? That's what you call this, brother? A complication?" Karim shot his sister a warning look before continuing. "Someone has leaked information to the press about us, Isabella. About your position here, your background, and insinuations about our relationship." Isabella felt the blood drain from her face. "What? How?" Layla stood up, her voice trembling with barely contained emotion. "How? You really have to ask? It's obvious, isn't it? You've been planning this all along, haven't you? To worm your way into Karim's life, to ruin our engagement." "That's not true," Isabella protested, her mind reeling. "I would never." "Enough!" Karim's voice cut through the tension. "We don't know who leaked this information, but pointing fingers isn't going to solve anything. We need to focus on damage control." Amira stepped forward, her eyes blazing. "The solution is simple. She needs to leave immediately. We can release a statement saying it was all a misunderstanding, that she was just an employee who took advantage of your kindness." Isabella felt as if the floor was crumbling beneath her feet. "My daughters, their school, will be taken care of," Karim said firmly, meeting Isabella's gaze. "I promise you that, but Amira might be right. It might be safer for you and the girls if you weren't here while we sort this out." The betrayal Isabella felt in that moment was like a physical pain in her chest. After everything they had shared, every moment of connection, he was willing to cast her aside to save face. "I see," she said, her voice barely above a whisper. "So this is how it ends. You made me believe, you made me hope." Karim took a step towards her, his eyes pleading. "Isabella, please understand. This isn't what I want, but nothing," Layla interjected. "It's what needs to be done, for the family, for the business, for all of us." As the argument escalated around her, Isabella felt a strange calm settle over her. She thought of her daughters, of the life they had built here, of the dreams they had begun to nurture. She thought of the strength she had always found within herself, even in the darkest moments. "No," she said, her voice cutting through the chaos. Everyone turned to look at her, stunned by the steel in her tone. "No," Isabella repeated, straightening her spine. "I will not be cast aside like this. I will not allow my daughters to be uprooted again. We have done nothing wrong, and I refuse to be treated as if we have." She turned to Karim, her eyes meeting his. "You once told me you admired my strength, my ability to protect my children. Well, this is me protecting them and myself. If you want us gone, you'll have to force us out. And I promise you, I will fight with everything I have." The room fell silent, the weight of Isabella's words hanging in the air. Karim stared at her, a mix of admiration and conflict warring in his eyes. Amira looked as if she had been slapped, while Layla sank back into her chair, speechless. It was Mrs. Kumar who broke the silence, a small smile playing on her lips. "Well," she said, "it seems the real storm has finally arrived." As Isabella turned to leave the study, her head held high, she felt a shift in the air. She had thrown down the gauntlet, challenging not just Karim and his family, but the very foundations of the world they lived in. Outside, the Dubai sky darkened as an unexpected rainstorm gathered. It was as if the heavens themselves were preparing for the battle that lay ahead. Isabella knew that the coming days would test her in ways she had never been tested before. But as she thought of her daughters, of the life they deserved, she felt a fire ignite within her. Let the storm come, she thought. She was ready. The days following Isabella's defiant stand were a whirlwind of tension and uncertainty. The Al Rashid mansion, once a haven of luxury and order, now felt like a battlefield where every glance, every word, carried the weight of unspoken conflict. Isabella threw herself into her work with renewed determination, her head held high despite the whispers that followed her through the corridors. She was acutely aware of the stakes, not just for herself but for her daughters, who had finally found a place to call home. Sophia and Luna, perceptive as ever, sensed the change in the household's atmosphere. "Mama," Sophia said one evening as Isabella tucked them into bed, "are we in trouble?" Isabella's heart clenched, but she managed a reassuring smile. "No, mi amor. We're just facing a challenge, but remember what I've always told you. Martinez women are strong," Luna recited solemnly. "Exactly," Isabella nodded, hugging them close. "We'll get through this together." Meanwhile, Karim was waging his own battle. The leaked story had indeed made its way to several prominent news outlets, sparking a flurry of speculation about the Al Rashid family's personal affairs. Business partners were calling, demanding explanations. The family's reputation, built over generations, was teetering on the brink. Late one night, as Karim pored over damage control strategies in his study, Amira burst in, her face flushed with excitement. "I've found the solution, brother," she declared triumphantly. "A press conference. We'll announce your engagement to Layla, present a united front. It's the perfect way to quash these rumors once and for all." Karim looked up, exhaustion etched on his face. "And what about Isabella and her daughters? What becomes of them in this perfect plan of yours?" Amira's expression hardened. "They'll be taken care of course. A generous severance package, perhaps a position at one of our international branches. It's more than fair considering the circumstances." As Amira outlined her plan, neither of them noticed Sophia standing in the shadows of the partially opened door, her young mind absorbing every word. The next morning, as the household prepared for the press conference, chaos erupted. Luna burst into the main hall, tears streaming down her face. "Mama!" Sophia's missing. Isabella's world tilted on its axis. The entire household was mobilized for the search, the impending press conference forgotten in the face of a child's disappearance. It was Mrs. Kumar who finally found Sophia, huddled in a hidden alcove in the mansion's vast library. The girl's eyes were red-rimmed, but there was a determination in her gaze that belied her years. As Isabella rushed to embrace her daughter, Sophia spoke up, her voice trembling but clear. "I heard them, Mama. They want to send us away. But I won't let them. We belong here." The commotion had drawn everyone to the library. Karim, Amira, Layla, and several staff members. As Sophia's words hung in the air, a heavy silence fell over the room. It was Karim who broke it, his voice thick with emotion. "No one is sending you anywhere, Sophia. Not you, not your sister, and certainly not your mother." He turned to face the assembled group, his decision clear in his eyes. "I've been a coward," he declared, "hiding behind family expectations, business obligations. when the truth has been staring me in the face all along. Karim moved to stand beside Isabella and her daughters. "This is my family," he said simply. "These are the people I choose to build my life with. And if the world has a problem with that, then it's the world that needs to change, not us." Amira stepped forward, her face a mask of disbelief. "Karim, you can't be serious. Think of the consequences. The scandal." "The only scandal," Karim interrupted, "would be denying what's in my heart for the sake of appearances." He turned to Layla, his expression apologetic. "I'm sorry, Layla. You deserve someone who loves you completely, not someone bound by obligation." Layla, who had been watching the scene unfold with a mix of emotions, surprised everyone with a small, sad smile. "I think I've known for a while that your heart belonged elsewhere, Karim. I just didn't want to admit it to myself." As the reality of Karim's declaration settled over the room, Mrs. Kumar stepped forward, a twinkle in her eye. "Well, if we're going to have a press conference, I suggest we give them something truly newsworthy to report." And so an hour later, Karim stood before a sea of flashing cameras and eager reporters, Isabella and her daughters by his side. With unwavering resolve, he shared their story. Not just the polished version crafted for public consumption, but the raw, honest truth of two people from different worlds, brought together by fate and bound by love. "Love knows no boundaries," Karim concluded, his hand intertwined with Isabella's. "It doesn't care about wealth, status, or where you come from. It only cares about where you're going together." As the cameras flashed and questions flew, Isabella looked up at Karim, her heart full. They both knew that challenges lay ahead, cultural differences to navigate, prejudices to overcome. But in that moment, with Sophia and Luna beaming beside them, they were ready to face whatever came their way. In the weeks and months that followed, the Al-Rashid mansion underwent a transformation. It became a symbol not just of wealth and power, but of love's ability to transcend barriers. Isabella and Karim worked side by side, using their influence to support causes close to their hearts. Education for underprivileged children, support for single mothers, and initiatives to bridge cultural divides. Sophia's artwork, once a catalyst for conflict, now adorned the walls of the mansion and beyond, her talent nurtured and celebrated. Luna's business acumen flourished under Karim's mentorship, her dreams of entrepreneurship taking solid shape. And as for Amira, she surprised everyone by becoming one of the family's strongest advocates. Her initial resistance transformed into fierce protectiveness for her new nieces and sister-in-law. One evening, as the family gathered on the balcony overlooking the Dubai skyline, Karim pulled Isabella close. "Do you remember that day in Colombia?" he asked softly. "When I first saw you in the storm?" Isabella nodded, smiling at the memory. "I thought then that you were the strongest person I'd ever seen," Karim continued, "but I had no idea just how strong until you stood up to all of us, fighting for your place here. You didn't just change my life, Isabella. You changed all of our lives for the better." As the sun set over Dubai, painting the sky in brilliant hues of orange and pink, Isabella looked at her family, her daughters, thriving and happy, Karim, his eyes full of love, and the extended family they had built in this grand house. She thought of the long journey that had brought her here, of the storms weathered and the challenges overcome. In that moment, Isabella knew that she had found more than just a home. She had found her true place in the world, where love conquered all, and where happily ever after was not just a fairy tale ending, but a reality built day by day, with courage, compassion, and an unwavering belief in the power of love. End of story. Dear listeners, we hope that Isabella and Karim's journey has touched your hearts. Their story reminds us that love can indeed conquer all, bridging cultures, overcoming obstacles, and creating beautiful new beginnings. If you've been moved by their tale, we invite you to join us for more captivating narratives that explore the complexities of life and love. Subscribe to our channel and hit the like button to ensure you don't miss our upcoming stories. And please share your thoughts in the comments below. How has this story resonated with you? What challenges have you overcome in your own life's journey? Remember, every comment, every shared experience adds to the tapestry of our collective storytelling. Until next time, may your own life be filled with the courage to follow your heart and the strength to stand up for what you believe in.